We're talking today about getting property at discount. Amy, hello, welcome. How are you? Good to have you along.
Thank you.
Are you there?
I
Oh,
am.
you can hear me. I was wondering about the technology there for a sec. Brilliant. So before we get into finding property at a discount, I want to talk about why it's important to a professional property investor. Um, Amateurs, they'll buy at any price and think they're property investors. But if the numbers just stack up, it becomes a liability, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I think before I sort of came through and started getting educated on how to buy, in a professional manner, I think everybody has those, a few friends that kind of dabble and they buy, somebody told them that, bricks and mortar is a good investment, which, yeah, sure, and they buy at full asking price and they'll put it straight on a repayment mortgage um, and I think that's that typical sort of people that 10, 15, 20 years ago they've got a bit of spare cash, they're doing it as a retirement plan, and that's very much in my mind the amateur way of doing it. And I think everybody's got those few friends that kind of do that, and they might buy one every few years. Whereas for me, what really opened my eyes is when I first started learning this, the model simply of buying below market value, buying at discount to be able to add value, refinance, pull the money back out. The power to then be able to go again is absolutely paramount. And so I think for me that's the key difference between amateur and professional. The idea of kind of the money in, money out, recycling the finance, because you then just it's almost an absolute given that the portfolio is going to grow on that. Whereas that amateur model where you're buying at full asking price, you're hoping that you might get a little bit of cash flow out of it, even though you're probably trying to pay money down on it, which obviously we wouldn't do either. But yeah, that model is you're relying on savings from your job as opposed to be able to buy the next one because you're simply not recycling that finance. So for me, it's absolutely key.
Yeah, and you've hit on so many different things there as well. That an amateur will just sit on the property and let it grow in value and maybe get a little bit out of it, but that's risky in itself because it's yes, it's going up in value, but what if something breaks, or what if the tenant trashes it, or what if the tenant just disappears and you don't realise, or which can happen with amateurs, and it's suddenly a liability, same as if it's costing you money every month. I mean, I know I've heard of horror stories over the years of people who've bought property and it's costing them 500 a month. That's just plain stupid. um,
100%, yeah.
so having it as an asset and something that you can pull money out and reinvest it, that's the important thing for you, then making sure that you can add value to a property, use the money again, and
Yeah,
invest in another
absolutely.
property.
The idea of firstly recycling the finance to be able to go again means my business is always going to be growing using that model.
Mm,
Secondly, the reason why I started in this, the reason why I knew property could be a powerful vehicle for me was because I didn't want to be in a job, okay, and I didn't want somebody telling me that I needed to be here at this time, and if you don't turn up at this time
mm,
and you don't do this, this, and this, you're not going to get paid, and I just knew that there's something powerful in that idea of that rental income, that cash flow every month, being able to pay for me to have a life that looks a bit more like I wanted it to, and I think that that element in itself, being able to get a cash flow so that you can use that to live off, absolutely fantastic. It obviously gives you a lot more freedom in life, but also it simply means that the idea of property prices going up, the fact that your portfolio value is going up over time, that's simply a bonus. I think that,
mm.
going back to the amateur way of investing, their primary goal is, well, if I buy it, it'll go up in value. Great. For us, it's like buy for income, buy for that cash flow, and the fact that the property prices will go up is simply just a bonus of that model, which is I think
Mm.
what I like most about it. Prices, they'll go up, they'll go down over time. Yeah, of course they will gradually go up, but it's not something that I'm banking on, which I think just hugely sort of
Mm.
mitigates risk in general, you know. So yeah, 100%.
So for you, it's an income that it's creating. It's a
Yeah,
business that you're
a
creating.
hundred
It's not
percent.
just having a nest egg for the future. So you, just before we get into how we actually find the properties or how we actually get the properties at a discount, let me ask you quickly, what was it? Why property particularly? What was it that got you that interested you? I mean, you said you didn't particularly want to have a job where you had to, go be where you're meant to be at 9 to 5 or whatever. What was it that attracted you to property?
I think for me, I was about 25 when I started first getting properly educated in property, and honestly, I was probably naive in that I just, but I think society in general, like, you're just taught to go through school, go through university, get a job,
Mm.
and work till you're 65, and do most people not really enjoy the
And
jobs?
older
No,
now.
yeah,
And older
exactly, yeah.
now.
But yeah, and I just think for me, like, I always knew that I was quite business minded, and I liked the idea of having my own business one day. But my background was hospitality, so I always just presumed that I would work towards having my own hotel, restaurant, and that's very much what I always envisaged myself doing. But then I think the older I got in that industry, the more I could see that people who were 15, 20 years down the line from me, they sort of had that goal that I thought I wanted, and they were still absolutely tied to it. They have holidays when they want to, spending time with kids might be limited, or, all these things. And I think, when I very first started in that world of getting educated in property, I think I just, all of a sudden, I was meeting people that didn't have these ties, and their lives looked a lot more like they wanted it to. And I think that passive income through property is that's what makes it, such a powerful thing, really. For me, it was just about, um, why can't your day to day look a lot more like you would want it to be? And as well, what I like about property is that, it's almost limitless. Some people will have their goal of hitting 2 or 3 thousand a month passive income from property, and that pays their way, and they'll go, do you know what, great, I'll enjoy myself now. And other people will take it completely to the next level, and do big commercial flips, and make big chunky cash, and reinvest, and keep building. And I like that. You can always strive for more within the industry, but it's also perfectly, fine to kind of just go, well, actually, my passive
Yeah.
income is there.
Yeah.
Just enjoy that. Um,
It's personal needs and wants, isn't it? I guess
mm,
it's like you say, some just want to replace their income, have the same
yeah,
lifestyle, but replace the job, replace the
yeah,
income from the
yeah,
job. Others create a bigger business
yeah.
and it
There's no right
grows.
or wrong path. I don't think. It's that. I think that's,
Absolutely, I
in
agree with
summary,
that.
that's what I like. I like the freedom of the fact that you build it
Mm.
to the extent that, until you're happy with what your life looks like.
We don't all have to be millionaires. We don't all have to be flashy millionaires with
No.
Instagram accounts
Once
and
I've got
stuff.
my
But
once I've got
anyway.
my chalet in Morsey, I should be happy. That's me done.
Oh, great! Can I come and stay
That's
in Morsey? Oh, brilliant! Yeah, keen skier, you see. So
wonderful.
yeah. Um, all right. So and how long have you been involved in property now? How far down the line
Um,
are you?
yeah, so August 17 was when I, classic story, attended the 2 hour seminar. Went, oh, okay, this
Mm,
property thing looks kind of powerful. So yeah, August 17 was when I very much started. Of course, it's been ups and downs since. It's never absolute plain sailing, but I think for me, like many, my initial goal was, let's try and get out of this job within a couple of years. I actually left my main employment a year after, joining Asset Academy and getting sort of educated, and
fantastic. Well done.
yeah, which, and at the time, was I hugely comfortable and kind of, you know holidays 3 times a year? No, absolutely not. I'm not going to say that I sort of really, really rocketed in that first year, but I think, I got to a stage where I could see the power in investing in property as an asset was was going to be the thing that could make my life look very, very different. And um, from there, I think I knew that if I could just at least step away from a job, then I can spend a lot more time in property and make the next couple of years after that really start to shape my portfolio and look a lot more, um, you know.
And that's a familiar story. I mean, lots of people I've met and talked to, it's that same similar thing. Once they're able to devote that little bit more time
Yeah,
to property, once they've achieved that initial goal, then the growth really
yeah,
starts. And
absolutely.
I think anyone who's just starting out, they've got to be very realistic about that first year, 18 months. They've
Yeah,
still got to show up and put the effort in. But when they get to that first sort of step of going, right, we can cut my work in half,
mm,
or one of us, if they're a team, one of us can stop working, then they start seeing the growth,
yeah,
which is
yeah. I mean,
I
there's
think
always going to
is
have
the
to be a little bit of
exciting bit.
sacrifice,
Of course, yeah,
but at the
yeah.
same time, it's every hour spent finding that next property deal is going to make
Mm,
things look very, very different later on. It's all about kind of that compound effect of just doing little and often every day and just building towards
mm,
those goals. And as well, I always say, I think it's absolutely fine for people's goals to change. When I was
mm.
still loving my job in hospitality when I first started in property, and I really did think my goal would have been step away from hospitality for a few years, build my portfolio,
Hmm.
make things a little bit more financially stable for me, to then be able to get back into hospitality and do what I wanted to from a place of being more financially stable. And, honestly, it took for me to step away from a job for me to then go, actually, this freedom thing is kind of quite all right, and I chose not to go back into the industry. But
Yeah.
everybody's goals are very, very different, and
I
it's
was going to
fine
say,
to
and now,
evolve.
yeah, yeah. So finding those deals, then that's obviously the all important thing, and that's what we're going to talk about, at depth today,
Mm,
about how we can find discounted deals or below market value. BMVs is the phrase we hear all the time. Before we do that, I don't know. I want to redefine the term because I've watched lots of videos of other people, and I've listened to other stuff about finding below market value properties, and often it seems like they're trying to grab,
mm,
they're trying to do the best. I like to think of it as a win-win price, so that both you and the vendor finish the deal and are happy. It's not that we're trying to pressure people into selling us the property for a cheaper price, and that we're trying to screw them over, for want of a
mm,
better
mm,
phrase.
mm.
What do you think to that? I mean, a win, win-win. It's another jargony
Yeah,
thing, but I think that's really important, isn't it, when you're looking for
100%.
below market value property?
Yeah, and I think what even is a property value? Like who is this gospel person
Mm.
that decides a property's worth X amount? Do you know what I mean? And yes, you have surveyors, and yes, you have estate agents that will put these figures on things, but
Mm.
at the end of the day, a property is worth what somebody would pay. And not only that, if you add another level onto that concept, a property is worth what somebody will pay within the timescale that the vendor needs to sell. Because an estate agent can value it at X, a vendor can choose for it to sit on the market for 3 years before it'll sell at X. Some vendors, um, everything comes down to the vendor's circumstances, essentially. Of course, the factor of estate agents overvaluing, undervaluing, promising vendors this, that, and the other. All of that is a factor, but everything comes down to why does the vendor want to sell this property? Do they need to sell it? Do they want to sell it? How much emotional attachment do they have on that property? And so, what is a property worth to me? What is it worth to somebody else? Somebody, if they're looking to buy their forever home, and the property's been valued at 250, but because it's in the perfect location for their kid's school, they might pay 280 because that's what being in that location means to them. It's everything comes down to why is the buyer buying and why is the seller selling, and that's always going to affect the
Yeah.
value that somebody's put on that
The
bricks and
value of a
mortar.
property. And we're definitely going to, I want to talk about why a seller is selling their property, and
Mm.
how that can have a big influence. But when it comes to investment property, there's often there are, let's call it if we're looking at baby buy to lets, a 3-bedroom home, family home for
Mm.
the average person, average home for the average person. I think it's important that we do sort of clarify something and say, if a property, or if a number of properties on a number of streets that are very, very similar, whether they're terraces or a bunch of semis, if, say, they're selling at around about 100, 105, 110, and that's been the price that they've been selling at for, say, the last 6, 9, 12, 18 months, and you get it for £80,000, or if you get a property for £80,000, then you've definitely got a discount. And I think that's important to say, because you're absolutely right, and I agree with you. A property is worth what somebody will sell it for, and buy it for. But if we took, just for the purposes of this, I think it's important that the listeners and the viewers, no matter whichever medium they're watching this on, understand that if we're talking about a discounted property, it's a property that's less than what the average has been
Yeah,
selling for
absolutely. Yeah.
in that area on that street.
Mm, mm, mm.
And you brought out something there that I agree on as well, that estate agents can manipulate the value of
Yeah,
property as well, and
yeah,
they can promise the earth. But you know what, if a property is only selling at 85, 90,000 pounds, they can put it on at 100 and
yeah,
promise the earth, like you
yeah.
said, to the vendor. But if it doesn't sell, then it doesn't sell.
Mm, mm.
So, like I said earlier, win-win, because it's. I think we should complete a deal with the vendor being happy.
Definitely.
Because there's this great thing called the universe, or karma, or the law of reciprocity, whatever, that'll come back and get you at some point in the future. So now that we've sort of turned people off with a bit of philosophy and our ideas of what below value properties, let's look at how we can get good value property, below market value, or discounted property. First of all, there's two, maybe three key ways of getting property, isn't there? There's estate agents, well, two really, and direct to vendor, and they've both got different techniques. Let's focus on estate agents first of
Mhm.
all. In your opinion and experience, can you get good deals with an estate agent?
Yeah, 100%. In the earlier days, it's going to be a lot harder. The sole thing that's resting on can you get good deals with an estate agent is simply building that rapport, and like I said before, going in with the understanding that the sole most important thing about the whole thing is what is the vendor's circumstances, and I think the more rapport that's built with an estate agent, the more likely it is that they are going to analyze the vendor's circumstances and go, okay, the vendor's circumstances mean that they really want to hold out for top dollar here. It's in a great area. This is going to be better going to a home buyer. Absolutely fine. Sometimes they'll go, okay, this property's on the market because it's a deceased estate. There's an emotional attachment, and therefore the vendors, the people that have inherited the property, they would rather just say, just please take it as it is. We'd really like it through as soon as possible because we don't want to cling on to this property that's got some sort of emotional attachment, and that sort of thing. And that's when the estate agents will say, right, somebody who can buy not necessarily at what the asking price might be, buy it at a discount, but buy it quickly, buy it simply, buy it without asking tons and tons of questions. Just take it off our hands, please. And I think um, the stage where I've now got to after a long time of building that rapport with agents is the fact that when they have one, which are in these circumstances where the vendors say, we just want it taken off our hands as quick as possible. That's when they're going to ring me and say, "Will you come and have a look at this?" They're open to offers, and I think it just comes down to. I think a lot of it comes down to the estate agent's ability to sort of categorize them like that. The ones that they do really want to sell for a high price, and that's absolutely fine. I have relationships with agents where I'm happy to say to them, look, if you've got somebody that's desperate to get well over asking price, fine. I'm happy to not look at that. I'm not saying that every single property is going to be perfect for me. Let's focus on the ones where the vendors are in the circumstances where they're happy to take a bit less for a quick and easy sale. So yeah, it's can you walk into an estate agent once and say, I want to buy at 30% BMV? what have you got? They're just going to laugh at you. It's about it's about building those relationships and just being honest as well. Like you said before, we're here to, we're not here to screw people. We're here to, do it in a moral, ethical way. And I think gradually, the more we explain our model, the more we explain how we work, the more we explain to estate agents that we're buying to make premium housing. At the end of the day, we're buying rundown properties that haven't been loved for a long time. A lot of the time, they've got stinky, swirly carpets and whatever, and 70s kitchens, and we're turning them around and making it into premium housing. Like that, we're not kind of just shoving in a crappy brown carpet and some magnolia paint. We're making them so that it's going to go to the rental market and
Appealing.
be
Yeah.
exactly. And so again, like that's to me, there's a win-win there. I think estate agents, once they can see that we're not just offering low offers for the sake of it, when they can see our model, when they can see that we can buy quickly, and that because we're not in the amateur market where we're buying one and then saving up for a few years and then buying another, we're buying recycling as well. They know that they can just keep ringing and saying, I've got another one near you, all right, to come and see it. We're always using other people's money. We're always kind of in a place of being able to grow rapidly. And that's obviously a big advantage to the estate agent. It's just about seeing, understanding what they want from the sale at the end of the day.
And that's brilliant. You've answered about half a dozen of my questions, all in that piece there, which is fantastic. So, I want to for anybody who's watching this, who's thinking, who is new to this. Let's just pick up on a few things there. A mistake that new investors often do is they walk in and say, like you said there, I want property at 30% below market value. What have you got? Don't say that. That's an important thing, isn't it? Which you were very clear on, because they'll laugh at you and they'll go, "Oh, another one." The important thing to do is create some rapport with an agent.
Definitely.
And build a relationship. Those are hugely important aspects, aren't they?
Yeah.
And the reason is because agents, they get to know you, get to understand what you are looking for, and might even get to like you. I mean, I've got one agent who we've always detested one another, and we've never actually done any business together, because even though I keep going back to this agency to look at property, every time this individual answers the phone, I think, oh God,
yeah. I have one exactly the same.
I wonder if it's the same one. We'll discuss this one. So it's what you were saying there is relationships with the agent are so important.
Yeah.
How long do you think it takes to build up a relationship with an agent then?
Yeah, I think it can completely vary for the simple reason that, and this might just be my experience, but I think agents, they can be quite in tune and understand what we do, what our model is, why we offer what we do. And there are agents that are quite unopen to trying to understand, and they just are in a limited mindset of thinking, well, we should be able to sell every property to a home buyer that's willing to pay a lot. And I think a lot of that depends on how long the agent's been in the market, how long they've been doing what they've been doing. If the agent has worked through different ups and downs in the market, obviously, prices obviously just work with supply and demand. Prices go up and down, the market goes up and down. And if agents have had to work through a couple of years where they're struggling to find home buyers that are paying decent prices, and whereas lots coming on the market, they're going to have been through phases where they've had to work a lot harder for that commission. Other times, if an estate agent's only been working for the last couple of years where the market's been moving fairly rapidly, then they may have that limited view of, you don't have to work all that hard to get that commission. And I think, therefore, agents that kind of have a bit more of a some agents that I work with and I have a good rapport with, I can see that even though they're in a job in an estate agency, they are quite entrepreneurial, they are quite business minded, and they can sort of understand my model, and they can understand by looking at the situation as a whole, that there are definitely situations where I can be of use to them. Um, I've had
I mean,
ones
it's a
where,
sales job in the end, anyway, isn't it?
hmm,
They're in sales, so they need to be a bit more entrepreneurial minded. So it's interesting
absolutely,
you said that
yeah, absolutely.
some of them have got more business minds. Um, what was I going to ask you? Do you get to know them personally? I mean, do you get
Yeah,
to
100%.
do you ask questions about their personal life, their family, what they're
Yeah,
doing,
yeah,
and
definitely. Yeah,
is that important?
yeah, 100%. Genuinely, just one example. At the latter end of last year, one estate agent that I get on with particularly well. Why? Because we genuinely actually get on. Do you know what I mean? She's nice, she's friendly, but we have a lot in common. We chat about a lot of things outside of property. We get on. She understands how I work. She understands what I'm looking for. And actually, she came to me at the end of last year and said, "Look, um, I've got a guy who's selling off his portfolio. There are, I think it was 9 properties in his portfolio. He didn't want to just, they didn't, neither of them, the estate agent and the vendor, didn't want to just list them on Rightmove, 9 different properties, because they would have ended up with 9 different buyers, 9 different solicitors, 9 different surveyors, all of this, And she came direct to me and she went to one other investor that she got on with and said, "Look, this is the situation. He wants them buying quickly, all together, by the same person. What can you do?" And honestly, that opportunity only came to me because I'd taken the time to a silly little thing, a silly little. It's not a technique; it's a genuine thing. I've got a couple of dogs, and if I'm on a full day of viewing, I shove them in the back of my boot because in between viewings, I'll walk the dogs and walk the streets to get to know the area. And because of this, a lot of the agents kind of know me as the one that's always got the dogs in the boot. So this agent, she really likes dogs as well. So when we've had a look around a property, she's like, "Oh, can I stroke your dog?" And it's just a silly little thing, but it really does kind of. And I've heard other investors saying about taking kids on viewings with them. Silly little things like that. It just adds to
Yeah,
them seeing that we're normal, real people. We're not just money grabbing business people that are always
yeah.
trying to screw them down. It's just about real people and networking and
Mm.
seeing how we can help one another, I guess.
Yeah, and getting that across as well, where it's that we're not money grabbing. We
Mm,
are just people trying to run a business. And once they see, I think also that you're providing good quality homes,
mm, yeah.
they're going to have a bit of respect for what you do as well,
Yeah,
aren't they?
absolutely. I think I've definitely experienced the fact that agents they want to be part of what I'm doing, because they can see the quality behind it. Especially if I'm looking at something and I would look to flip it, they love that because they know that I'm going to give them if they'll help me out to buy it, I will generally hand it back to that same agent to sell it, and obviously that's the big win-win for them, but also they know that they're going to have a relatively easy time to sell it because I'm going to hand them a very premium product for them to sell. And it can work with lettings as well. Sometimes, if they want to manage it afterwards, it can work in many ways. But I think they like the idea of supporting somebody that's doing a proper job, if you like. There are a lot of amateur rogue landlords out there that just buy the cheapest houses and really don't add any quality to them at all. They might shove in a tub of magnolia and that's it. And certainly in my experience, I think agents like to try and work with us because we're offering premium products to the market.
Yeah. So, sort of in to summarize a little bit before we move
Mm,
on to direct to vendor techniques, it's communicating with your agent, building some rapport, building a relationship, getting to know
yeah,
them getting to know you, understanding what it is you do. So
yeah,
it's an age old story. I mean, in all of these podcasts that I'm doing,
mm,
all of this comes down to communication, effective
100%.
communication, and
Yeah,
making a connection with people.
yeah.
And it puts me in mind of a seminar I attended quite a good few years ago now, and the speaker she was talking about lease options wasn't an asset
Hmm.
academy trainer, but she was talking about lease options that basically just comes down to having a conversation with somebody.
Yeah.
And that's a key message that I try and put across in all of these, in all of the different trainers and the investors that I speak to and pick up on, is that you're all saying a similar thing. It's about
Mm.
communication and making a connection with people.
Yeah.
Um, Also, you talked about understanding the seller's needs as well, and
Yeah.
this is applicable to direct to vendor. So let's look at that. Direct to vendor, it is a term that could confuse and confound you investors a little bit. Let's what does that mean? Getting direct to vendor. It's not cutting out the agent necessarily, is it?
Not necessarily at all. No, I think in my experience, for whatever reason, there's a lot of I believe there's a lot of vendors that just would honestly prefer to sell without an estate agent in the middle. At the end of the day, an estate agent charges people to sell their house, and there's a lot of people that say, "Well, I'd rather not pay that." There's a lot of people that distrust estate agents for various reasons. I'm not saying they're trustworthy or not, but there's some people that kind of have it in their mind that um, they don't want somebody to necessarily come around and do that thing like we said, where sometimes they'll overvalue and overpromise and not deliver, and I think a lot of vendors have that in their mind that they'd rather just have a situation where if it is direct, then there's a lot more plain speaking. There's a lot less to and from. There's a lot less, unnecessary emails with asking tons and tons of questions. You know what I mean? I think there's a lot of vendors that would rather just get on with it and work directly, and that can work in an absolute multitude of different ways. I mean, I'm sure we'll get onto different ways of marketing, but yeah, I think simply it's just ticking that box of working with people that would rather not sell on the open market. They might not want people with their private home on Rightmove because they might not want people to see that. They don't want tons and tons of different viewings. Quite simply, there is that market of people.
Mm. And something they said is that it cuts out the agent, and to my mind, it streamlines the process. And for
Yeah,
some, and for some people who they want to sell quickly. So before we get into that, how do you actually then get vendors contacting you or coming to you? You mentioned marketing. What are the different methods of marketing that can be employed
yeah,
um,
yeah.
that get vendors
Mm.
picking up the phone and saying, "Hi, Amy, I've got this house to sell. Can you buy it?"
Yeah, so there are absolutely tons and tons of different ways, and at the end of the day, I think, like we said before, it comes down to communication and talking to people. The more people around you that know what you do, the more people are just going to think of you when they know somebody who's going to sell a house, essentially. For
So
me
first of all, then
personally,
it's spreading the word.
yeah, absolutely. So for me,
Right.
I would say my top three direct to vendor techniques that I use. I do social media advertising. So I have my kind of my professional business page that sort of talks about angel investing and my befores and afters and things like that, and my day-to-day viewings. I also have a separate social media campaign which is much more targeted specifically to people. Do you need to sell your house? And it's kind of just looking simply again marketing to those people that would rather not sell, in a similar way that plenty of estate agents, if they want new properties to market, they'll do a leaflet drop around the town saying, do you want to sell? I too, I've done leaflet campaigns, and it's nothing it's nothing pushy. It's just, look, do you want to sell your house without estate agent costs in a nice simple, manner, working with a friendly team, etc. And I'll get calls through that. And also, I do a lot of networking in my local area. So again, it's just getting to know local people in business actually, and a lot of the time they've got connections of people that may happen to want to sell. A lot of the time, going back to sort of those amateur landlords, in my experience, a lot of time people who have other businesses buy a few properties in quite an amateur way, realize that it's probably a lot more hard work than they expected, and then look to offload. And I found a lot of different opportunities just from doing business networking and kind of people saying, okay, this landlord thing isn't really for me. Can you come and have a look and possibly take a couple off our hands? So yeah, it's there are tons and tons of ways, but I think essentially it's just it's simply getting word out that you'll consider any property, any condition, any situation. The flexibility of if somebody says I want to sell next year, I want to sell in 3 months, because I'm always looking to buy, then I can work with lots of different people's situations, and as well, it gives me an opportunity to listen to their story. I think that's the most important thing. Just understand what is going to make them see this as a win as well, and address that primarily, then check that the numbers work for me.
So the things I'm picking up there from you is that ultimately it's communicating your message of what it
Mm.
is that you do, and you do it largely in three ways. You've got your social media,
Yeah,
and that's a whole other podcast, which I
yeah.
think I'll get you back for. We'll talk about social media
Go on.
strategies again in the future. Um, you've done some leafleting,
Mhm.
and again, that's almost a whole subject in itself
Yeah,
of the techniques of
yeah,
doing that. And networking. But with all three, it's still being persistent and repeating the
yeah, yeah,
process.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, leafleting, you target the same streets,
Mm.
in a
Yeah,
cycle. That's the way I understand it and how it
100%.
works. And it's not necessarily the first time that somebody picks up a leaflet,
Yeah,
but it can be maybe the third, the seventh, the
yeah,
whatever time. But
yeah,
that's can be quite a long-winded, but can still produce deals. Definitely,
absolutely.
social media perhaps a bit cheaper, and you can hit a wider market, and you can get a following that
Yeah,
way. Um, and then networking. I mean, there's an interesting thing that in it's sort of that I don't hear very often, that you're networking again, communicating with other investors, so
yeah,
you can still get direct to vendor from
and
other investors
yeah,
rather than people who are selling their home or their
definitely.
deceased
And the reason why I like it is
parents' home or whatever.
Yeah, and the reason why I like it is because business networking, like I said, there's a lot of kind of landlords that just have a few and they have a dabble, and that often can be their pain point. That's sort of where they want to go. Just it's not what I thought it was. I haven't had consistent tenants. That person's not paying, but also because they're business owners, a lot of the time I think they can be quite open to, look, here's a solution that'll work for us both. They're often kind of open to talking about different ways of me buying their portfolio, for example. Whereas if I pick up a call from a homeowner that's come through my social media campaign, it's going to take, it still can be an exceptional deal, but it's going to take me a little bit longer to go back to the beginning of what I do, why I do it, what's my model, how can I help, um, working on their expectations, because sometimes they might have had a couple of estate agents come round and value their house, and sort of clinging on to that. And, so it's kind of educating them to a point about how I can help them. Whereas I think looking to help out amateur landlords who might be in business already, I think that's kind of, it's a very different communication technique. But it can again be a great win-win because I can offer to purchase in quite a creative way often.
So before we get to solving people's problems and pain points, all of those techniques there, I think what I see is that you're constantly building a pipeline or a
Yeah,
funnel.
yeah,
You might not get the deal straight away. It might be that the vendor or whoever they haven't even, comes to you in 6 months' time, or
mm, mm.
somebody comes to you from a contact that you made 3 months ago. So
Yeah,
it's all about building this pipeline and
yeah,
funnel.
yeah,
Um,
definitely.
and it's persistency again. It's consistent effort. It's the slight edge, which
Yeah,
again is
yeah.
another
It's just getting
podcast I'm
my
going to
getting
do
my
too.
story out
Yeah,
to as many people as possible. Being
yeah.
being open and honest about my model, being open and honest about what I buy, um, and
Mm,
yeah, just spreading the word really.
mm. So then we're solving problems essentially. What are the key questions that you ask a vendor then when you first meet them?
So I guess it's initially my goal is to just to make small talk and get to know them in order to analyze what kind of personality type they are. And once I've
Mm,
kind of decided that, then I can go, okay, if they're somebody who wants a job done, they just want to talk numbers and they want me to say, look, this is what I can buy a house for, does it work for you or not? Other people, like I said with estate agents, I build a lot of rapport around having my dogs with me and things like that. Other vendors, I might sit and have a cup of tea with them for an hour and talk about their family and understand. what they've got going on for me to be able to look at the situation and go, okay, well, this is how I think I can help you. And I think it's, yes, there are specific questions I need to ask about, the house and when did they buy it, and what do we think its value is, and things like this, and do they have a mortgage on it, and how, what do they feel they actually need out of the sale, and all these things. But I think it still comes down to sort of, they'll all have a reason, and sometimes it can be more forthcoming with it, and other times they'll not want to open up too much at the beginning. But it's about understanding, why do
Mm,
they want to move? Do they really want to be in a different area for the kids' school? Do they want to leave
mm,
this area because they've had a family trauma in this area? Like I said before, is it a deceased estate? And just understand why they're selling, and the real reason why. Um, and the more I can do that, the more I can fit a solution around what they've got going on, I think. So yeah, it's
yeah.
just about building that rapport, and just, yeah, delving deeper into their reason why they're selling, I think.
So it's finding out what's motivated the sale in the first place and finding out how motivated they are. I mean, a
Yeah,
phrase we'll often hear is motivated sellers.
yeah,
And sometimes they need to move, I mean, in my experience, a deceased estate, for example, sometimes they don't necessarily need the full price.
yeah,
They're just wanting to sell it, and they'll be happy with whatever they get.
yeah.
I
They,
mean,
they don't
first
want to keep
property
having
I
to look
bought
after
was
everything.
exactly that.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, all I was going to add on the deceased estate aspect is, in my experience, the sort of age range where their parents might have passed away, so they've ended up with a house to sell. They're people that are sort of nearing retirement themselves almost, and so are they sort of looking for every last penny to come out of this deal? No, because they're often at a stage where they're fairly comfortable themselves, but do they want to have to keep going to cut the grass at this property, and go into, like, get it ready for tons of different viewings and things like that? That's what they don't want to do. They don't want the time and effort to put in. They would just, rather have, what can you pay? Thank you very much. Do the deal within a month. Um, so yeah, it's just understanding them, and their motives.
So solving the problem there, and then the types of properties that we're looking for. It's not always the type of property; it's sometimes the seller. But the type of property we're looking for, where we can get the discounted deals, are perhaps older properties that have been our deceased estates, or landlords who have got properties who have just had a nightmare, and
Yeah,
dreadful tenants, and are getting out of the game because they just are sick of the tenants trashing the
yeah,
place. But that's because they probably didn't select the tenant properly.
yeah,
Another
100%.
subject altogether. So I'm just trying to focus on a bit on the types of properties we look for as well.
Yeah,
You know
for me, number one question: do a lot of people want to live in this house? How much demand is there for, at the end of the day, we're focusing on the buying process and the discount. But if I'm going to rent it to somebody, do plenty of people want to live in this street, on this house, in this type of house? Um, First question is that, is there going to be demand once I've turned it around? And then past that, it's sort of like you say, it's focusing on, the seller's motivation, and things like this. And is there an opportunity for me to add value to the property? Is it distressed in some way? Things like this. But the number one, is there going to be demand for my tenants? Is there an opportunity to add value? And do the seller's circumstances mean that we can create a win-win on the purchase price? They're sort of the three main factors for me on that point.
just thinking about condition of properties as well. Empty homes on the street, they can be a bit of a gold
Definitely,
mine as
yeah.
well. How do you get to those? What techniques do you use there?
Again, a lot
Would
of
you
that
use?
comes down to just that idea of talking to people, and just saying what we do. I've had
Mm.
a number of
Is that
people.
knocking on the neighbours' doors as well?
Yeah, yeah, and I've had it, quite a lot in the past. I've had it where, if we've got refurb going on one street, my tradesmen that are in there are getting to know the neighbours, because the neighbours are, oh, what's happening in that house? Oh, how are they going to be doing it up? And a lot of the time, I've had it where tradesmen are chatting to the neighbours, and the neighbours will sort of say, "Oh, so the person you're working for, they buy houses, do they? Are they, and that can lead to tons of different conversations, and quite often that can lead to, there's a house up the road that's empty. Speaking to neighbours, you can often sort of trace the owner through that. a lot of the time, like you said, knocking on doors, like just driving the streets when there is an empty property, just asking questions, ringing the council. Often, the council, no council wants empty, derelict houses within their council. So often they can be quite helpful in giving whatever information. There's tons of different ways of trying to find out who owns these empty houses. But I think neighbours and sort of trying to find that one nosy neighbour on the street is definitely the beneficial.
There's always one.
Yeah, there
There's always
absolutely is.
one.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's so many things have come out of this, and I think just to wrap up a bit, whether you're going to an agent or to a vendor, it's about communication
100%.
and getting to know them and building a rapport, building a relationship.
Mm.
Different marketing techniques that you have, essentially that is still communication, and it's still getting your message out there.
Yeah.
And like I say, we could do a whole podcast on effective leafleting campaigns. I mean, we didn't even talk about writing to vendors. I mean, that's a different thing. But the types of property we're looking for are those that we can add value to in some way, shape, or form. And that's one of the key things, isn't it? As an investor, we're always looking for property that we can add value to. And it's working out how to solve a seller's problem. If you can do that, you can get below market value property. Would you say all of the time or most of the time?
Yeah, I think it's about just listening to solving, to their problems and solving the problem. I think my only sort of caveat with direct to vendor is that it can take a lot of filtering. I'll have people ringing saying, I've got a house worth 190 and it's actually not. It's worth 160, and it's not in an area where it's a very place where many tenants want to be. Or for a multitude of different reasons, I think it can take a bit of filtering sometimes. Every deal isn't going to be exceptional, but direct to vendor conversations definitely can lead to a much more sort of creative solution than working just with estate agents. So I think it's, expecting a great deal to come out of every direct to vendor conversation. No, there's a lot of filtering, but what also comes with it is an opportunity to buy in much more creative ways, I think.
Fantastic. Communication is the key. This is what I'm hearing all the time. And I hope in the stuff we've talked about today, anybody who's new to investing, or maybe picking up their investment, trying to add to their portfolio that they've already got, that they'll be able to take away from this. I'm sure they will, because you've given us so much useful nuggets of information of what is necessary to really get that below market value property. So Amy, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. I'll see you soon, I hope, in person.
100%. Thank you.
So you can see there's loads more to learn about property investing, and guess what? These videos, they're all ready for you to learn even more. So click either one of these right now, and you can get some more information on how to grow your portfolio. Click the video, that one, either one. Go on.